Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel suffers its highest one-day death toll as 24 soldiers killed in Gaza. The US and British forces strike Yemen again. Donald Trump faces his last remaining Republican opponent, Nikki Haley, in New Hampshire election. UN scrutinizes China's rights record. The West calls for protection of Uyghurs and freedoms in Hong Kong. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to shortly attend a Subhash Chandra Bose birth anniversary celebration. Right, first up, updates on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israel's army has said that a total of 24 soldiers were killed in an attack in central Gaza, making it the largest single loss of life for the military since the conflict began. Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari told reporters that militants had fired rocket-propelled grenades at a tank. He added that at the same time, an explosion occurred in two buildings where the forces had planted explosives in order to destroy them. The buildings had collapsed on the troops. Meanwhile, Israel's President Isaac Herzog released a statement on what he said was an unbearably difficult morning. Israel has proposed a multi-phase deal to Hamas, suggesting up to a 2-month pause in the fighting. The proposal, through Qatari and Egyptian mediators, includes release of all remaining hostages held in Gaza. It came a day after Israel rejected a deal by Hamas. According to Israeli officials, more than 130 hostages are still being held captive in Gaza. Neither Israel, Qatar, nor Egypt have confirmed this development so far. Reports about the progress in peace talks came as US President Joe Biden's advisor met McGurk traveling to West Asia. Meanwhile, the United States has called on Israel to protect innocent people after Israeli forces stormed one hospital in Gaza. Israeli troops moved for the first time into Al-Mawasi district near the Mediterranean coast west of Khan Yunis. The forces stormed the Al-Khair hospital and arrested medical staff in the main city in southern Gaza. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby on Monday said Israel had a right to defend itself, but added that US expects them to do so in accordance with international law.
We know that Hamas deliberately uses places like hospitals to store weapons, house their fighters, even to some degree for command and control. And so that places a special need on the Israeli Defense Forces. They have a right to defend themselves. They have a right to go after these leaders. They have a right to take away the ability for Hamas to store and resource themselves, even if that is in hospitals. But again, I would say the same thing that we've said before on this issue, that we expect them to do so in accordance with international law.
Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz sidestepped discussion of a two-state solution at a meeting with European Union counterparts in Brussels on Monday. The EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell circulated a discussion paper with a roadmap to peace that calls for a preparatory peace conference organized by the EU and Arab nations. The US and UN were also invited to be conveners. While shortly before a meeting with his counterparts from the 27-member bloc, Palestine's Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki said EU ministers must call for a ceasefire in Gaza.
We have to call collectively for a ceasefire. We cannot accept anything less. We cannot be hesitant about a ceasefire. Every day that we show hesitancy, People are being killed, innocent people are being killed, children and women and elderly, and this is intolerable and unacceptable. The life of Palestinians really matter, and we cannot accept that, the life of Palestinian children are being really treated less than the life of children anywhere in the world.
The likelihood that Lebanon being drawn into a war with Israel is growing. Lebanon's caretaker foreign minister Abdullah Bo-Habib on Monday said concerns are growing that Lebanon could be dragged into a regional conflict in a spillover from the Israel-Hamas conflict. While addressing the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations in New York City, Abdullah Bo-Habib said such a conflict would not be a picnic for Israel.
Yes, we worry that we are pushed to this war. Hezbollah has more means than Hamas had. And therefore, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be costly for everybody. Of course, Israel has the Air Force, and they can dominate the air and the land as well. But on the whole, it's going to be damaging for everybody. I think the Israelis know that. And I think that they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't attack. And if they really reach an agreement in Gaza, this would stop immediately and automatically would stop in southern Lebanon or northern Israel.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in Ivory Coast's commercial capital Abidjan on Tuesday to meet President Alassane Ouattara. Blinken's trip is the latest in a series of visits to Africa by U.S. government figures as Washington, D.C. seeks to boost ties with a continent where China's influence is strong and many countries maintain cordial relations with Russia. Ivory Coast and neighbor Ghana are considered the first line of defense against the spread of groups such as the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda from the northern Sahel states such as Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The U.S. Secretary of State began a tour of 4 African countries on Monday. He met in Cape Verde's Prime Minister Ulysses Correa Silva. Iran's army has added new drones to its arsenal. Iran has announced the integration of a significant number of combat, reconnaissance, destructive and radar drones into its army. According to the officials, the drones have been significantly upgraded and are equipped with advanced features such as self-protection and anti-jamming systems, indigenous multi-navigation systems and smart precision weaponry. US and UK forces carried out a fresh round of strikes on Monday in Yemen, targeting a Houthi underground storage site as well as missile and surveillance capabilities used by the Iran-aligned group against Red Sea shipping. The Houthi attacks have disrupted global shipping and stoked fears of global inflation and have deepened concerns that fallout from the Israel-Hamas conflict could destabilize the entire region. In the latest response, US and British forces carried out strikes at 8 different locations in Yemen with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada and the Netherlands. A senior US military official said roughly 25 to 30 munitions were fired, some of them from warplanes launched from a US aircraft carrier. So far, 8 rounds of strikes over the past month have failed to stop Houthi attacks against ships. British Foreign Minister David Cameron has said that the action to degrade Houthi militia and its capabilities in Yemen will continue.
What the Houthis are doing is unacceptable, it's illegal, and it's threatening the freedom of navigation. That's why we've taken the action. Alongside that action is a whole set of measures we'll be taking, including sanctions and other pressure to put on the Houthis, combined, of course, with the action the Royal Navy is taking with others in the Red Sea.
The United Nations Security Council will hold a meeting on Tuesday to discuss the situation in West Asia, specifically the Israel-Hamas conflict. The goal of this meeting is to make progress toward a political, security and humanitarian resolution of the crisis and a lasting ceasefire. During the meeting, the UN chief and UNSC members aim to discuss on a 2-day solution for the conflict in the Middle East based on UN law and resolutions. The UNSC meeting will be chaired by France's foreign minister. France chairs the United Nations Security Council for the month of January. NATO has signed a €1.1 billion contract for 155mm artillery ammunition. NATO struck the deal on behalf of several allies who will either pass on the shells to Ukraine or use them to stock up their own depleted inventories. According to NATO officials, the contract will likely buy some 220,000 rounds of artillery ammunition, with the first deliveries expected at the end of 2025. During a press conference in Brussels, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the war in Ukraine has become a battle of ammunition.
Just concluded contracts worth $1.2 billion to buy hundreds of thousands of rounds of 155mm artillery ammunition. This demonstrates that NATO's tried and tested structure for joint procurement is delivering. Russia's war in Ukraine has become a battle for ammunition. So it is important that allies refill their own stocks as we continue to support Ukraine.
And now to an update on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Russia has claimed on Monday that its forces launched multiple offensives on the Ukrainian army and shot down their jets, while Ukraine said its armed forces repelled Russian attacks. According to Ukrainian military, at least 4 people were killed and 18 others injured in a missile attack on Kyiv and Kharkiv. The damages took place to nearby residential buildings and a gas pipeline. Japan and the United States said that they will continue to work with each other in maintaining the sanctions against Russia and supporting Ukraine in line with an agreement the Group of 7 industrialized nations reached last year. During an hour-long meeting with visiting U.S. Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Wally Adeyemo, Japan's Vice Finance Minister for International Affairs, Masato Kanda, said the two sides also exchanged candid views on the global economy, among other issues. The G7 and the European Union had pledged in May to restrict exports to Russia that could fund its war effort in Ukraine. Western countries, led by the United States, have sent billions of dollars in weapons and economic support to Ukraine since Russia launched a full-scale invasion in February 2022. China underwent scrutiny of its human rights record at a key UN meeting on Tuesday. The Western countries have called for more protections for Xinjiang Uyghurs and greater freedoms in Hong Kong. The review at the UN in Geneva is the first since the global body's top rights official released a report in 2022 saying the detention of Uyghurs and other Muslims in China's Xinjiang region may constitute crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, Beijing has denied any abuses, saying it had lifted nearly 100 million people out of poverty. And now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Ecuador's police deported the leader of the Colombian armed group Oliver Sinestra. Carlos L., known as El Gringo, was captured on Sunday night in Ibarra, in the north of Ecuador, following 3 months of preparations by the security forces. Carlos L. was reportedly involved in criminal activities in Ecuador. The Russian government has proposed extending capital controls that require exporters to convert foreign currency revenues into rubles until the end of the year, a move that should support the Russian currency. Australia imposed cyber sanctions on a Russian hacker, Alexander Ermakov, for his role in the breach at insurer Medibank, one of the country's biggest data thefts, which impacted about 10 million customers. Targeted financial sanctions and a travel ban have also been imposed on him. A winter storm unleashed intense rain and caused widespread flooding in San Diego, with the mayor declaring a state of emergency. The heavy rain had led to a power outage for about 5,000 homes in San Diego, while many roads and schools were closed amid the downpour. Still to come on DD India Live. The Ram Temple in Ayodhya opens its doors to the public. And the full dress rehearsal for India's Republic Day parade held in New Delhi.
What is the book about and why need to write this book?
This book is a long answer to a short question, which is, what do Indian diplomats do in Pakistan? How is the relationship? What the Bajwa Doctrine represented was an idea, a hesitant idea of reform. Fresh governments in place with fresh mandates, that may be a time to resume some kind of engagement.
The Pakistanis have called your book a work of fiction.
I would advise my friends across the border to read the book and judge it for themselves.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Ahead of the voting, Trump took to the stage to woo New Hampshire voters, saying Nikki Haley will be gone after the primaries.
We had a very good competitor, Ron, as you know, Ron DeSantis, and he fought hard and he fought well, and now we have one left. We started off with, really, if you add some Democrats into it, we started off with 13, and now we're down to 2 people. And I think one person will be gone probably tomorrow. And the other one will be gone in November.
Voters in the small town of Dixville Notch kicked off the U.S. state of New Hampshire's presidential primary on Tuesday, delivering a surprise landslide victory to White House hopeful Nikki Haley. The voting took place at midnight with all 6 registered voters, 4 Republicans and 2 independents, picking the former South Carolina governor over former President and Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. As the first to cast votes in the 2024 primaries, Dixville Notch made quite an impact on the unfolding election season in the country. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden is not officially listed in New Hampshire's primary election ballot on Tuesday. Biden kicked back the Democrats' decision to move their first primary election to a more diverse South Carolina. However, his supporters in New Hampshire can still vote for him by writing his name on the ballot, which is allowed in many U.S. states. If a non-listed candidate garners more votes than registered candidates, they win. In other news, UK businesses are warning of a new wave of post-Brexit trade disruption because European Union exporters are not ready for UK customs changes starting this month, and Britain's port infrastructure might be unprepared too. The UK left the European Union's single market in January 2021, but it has repeatedly delayed imposing checks on EU imports. By contrast, the EU immediately enforced its rules, leading to port delays in 2021 and prompting some British exporters to give up on selling to the bloc. Canada has announced that it will cap intake of international student permit applications for a period of 2 years. The cap is expected to result in approximately 360,000 approved study permits, a decrease of 35% from 2023 for this year. The new eligibility criteria for the post-graduation work permit program have also been announced. However, the new rules that came into effect on Monday will not impact current study permit holders or study permit renewals. Following missile launches and drone attacks within their territories last week, Pakistan and Iran have reached a mutual agreement for the return of their ambassadors to their respective posts by 26th of this month. In a joint statement on Monday, the Pakistan Foreign Ministry said that Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian will visit Pakistan on 29th January, responding to an invitation from Foreign Minister of Pakistan Jalil Abbas Gilani. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar is on a visit to Nigeria, the first ever by an Indian foreign minister to the South African nation. And while addressing the Nigeria-India Business Council in Abuja, the minister said that India is betting on Africa's rise, for there is a lot more to the South African country has in global space.
Africa is rising, and India is betting on Africa's rise. We are betting on Africa's rise because by any objective assessment, today there is so much going for Africa in terms of demography, in terms of resources, in terms of ambition, in terms of increasingly of policy alignments that clearly portend a very different, a much more positive future in the very short term. For us, the reordering of the world, the rebalancing, the multipolarity of the world will not be complete until Africa takes its due place.
The doors of the Ram temple in the Indian holy city of Ayodhya were thrown open to the general public on Tuesday morning. Devotees in large numbers thronged the Ram temple to participate in the first Arati after the consecration ceremony. A large number of devotees have gathered outside the temple for a darshan. For the past many days, the whole of Ayodhya was resonating with an unparalleled wave of devotional fervor, with the presence of thousands of sadhus, saints and devotees from across the world. The US ambassador to the UAE, Martina Strong, visited the Abu Dhabi Hindu Mandir last week. A social media video posted on X showed us the glimpse.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to visit a place that truly is an oasis of harmony and love and faith here in Abu Dhabi. And I am truly touched by everything that I have seen. You can see the love, the faith, the conviction coming to life in stone, both marble and other stone, through the work of the artisans who have been brought here from all around the world. And I think that that is really the message, the harmony of the world, the harmony of humanity, and the cosmic harmony that is coming to life here. And I do look forward to coming back with my family. I look forward to bringing American visitors here so that they can experience and be similarly touched by everything that's here. Thank you so much.
India is celebrating Day of Valor, or Parakram Divas, today. The day is celebrated across India to commemorate the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the leader of Indian National Army, who fought against the mighty British Empire in India's freedom struggle. Parakram Divas celebrations started from the year 2021 after Prime Minister Modi called on the nation to commemorate the occasion and pay tribute to all those luminaries who sacrificed their lives during India's freedom movement. Take a look at the next report.
Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, one of the tallest leaders of India's freedom struggle, was born on 23rd January 1897. Netaji, who established the first independent government of India, was the second leader of Azad Hind Fauj, the Indian National Army, and played an instrumental role in the freedom struggle of India. To honor his indomitable spirit and invaluable contribution, the nation observed Parakram Divas, Day of Valor, every year on 23rd January since 2021. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the 125th birth anniversary celebrations of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in Kolkata, where he said that Netaji gave new direction to the dream of independent India. PM Modi also asserted that Netaji is embodiment of India's might and inspiration.
नेताजी अखंड भारत की आजाद हिंद सरकार के पहले मुखिया थे और ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि आजादी की उस पहली झलक को सुरक्षित रखने के लिए 2018 में हमने अंडमान के उस द्वीप का नाम नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस द्वीप रखा.
It was in 2022 Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on his 125th birth anniversary, unveiling a hologram statue of Netaji under the canopy near India Gate.
भारत मां के वीर सपूत नेताजी सुभाष की जन्म जयंती है. देश पराक्रम दिवस के रूप में इस प्रेरणा दिवस को मनाता है. दीवारें
Soon after the celebrations, the digital hologram statue was replaced by a 28-feet granite statue and was unveiled by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The statue is completely hand-sculpted using traditional techniques and modern tools. In New Delhi, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
The full dress rehearsal for India's Republic Day parade was held at the Indian capital New Delhi's Kartavya Path on Tuesday. The Delhi police made detailed traffic arrangements for the smooth conduct of the parade along the route. The forces were seen rehearsing at the National War Memorial in New Delhi. The parade rehearsal began at Vijay Chowk and proceeded towards the Red Fort. Ahead of the parade, the Delhi police had issued an advisory updating about the traffic situation. The Indian government's outreach program called Vixit Bharat Sinkalp Yatra is seeing popular engagement among people. The Vixit Bharat Sinkalp Yatra has now reached India's Rajasthan state. People took part enthusiastically in the camp organized at Hanumangarh district of the state. People who are benefiting from the various welfare schemes expressed their gratitude to the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.
What is the book about and why